He wants to erase this world, and I am its memory.
That's what death is, isn't it? Forgetting. Being forgotten.
That was the explanation. And for years, we all believed it. But watch this scene. Really watch it. The Night King doesn't draw his sword. He doesn't attack. He just looks at him. After 8,000 years of marching, after sacrificing his generals, after slaughtering a dragon, he gets to the one person he's been hunting since the beginning, and he hesitates. Why? You just heard Bran's explanation, and we accepted it. We accepted that an ancient magical entity of ice and death marched across a continent to burn down a library. But that explanation was never the truth. It was a cover story, told by the one person in that room who could see all of history, and chose to hide it. Because if you look closely at this scene, really look at it, this isn't a monster coming to kill his enemy. This is a man coming to kill himself. And that changes everything about how Game of Thrones actually ends. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, and by the end of this video, you will never look at Bran Stark the same way again. But first, go back to that War Council clip. Notice something. Sam is the one talking. Sam is guessing. He's a well-read student offering a poetic theory about what death means. And Bran, an all-seeing entity who could tell everyone in that room exactly what the Night King wants, just agrees. He doesn't challenge Sam's theory. He doesn't offer anything deeper. He just confirms it and moves on. The guy who can see all of history chose to let a guess stand as the official explanation. That should have been our first warning that Bran was hiding something.
His mark is on me. He always knows where I am.
This is the real first clue. The Night King didn't just want to kill Bran. He wanted to find him. Specifically him. And the way he hunted Bran was fundamentally different from how he dealt with anyone else. At Hardhome, the Night King looked directly at Jon Snow. That famous stare across the water, raising the dead while locking eyes with him. That was terrifying, yes. But it was a performance. A flex. He was sending a message. Look at what I can do. He never pursued Jon. He let him leave. With Daenerys, he was strategic. Beyond the wall, he had ice spears ready. He chose to target a dragon, arguably luring them into a trap to acquire one. That's a military mind at work. But with Bran, he broke the rules of reality. He reached into a vision, across time and magic itself, to physically grab Bran's arm. He then personally led an army to the Three-Eyed Raven's cave, killing the previous Raven and Bran's companions. This wasn't strategy. This wasn't intimidation. This was obsession. This was personal. Why? Because of this moment. In Season 6, Bran has a green sight vision of the Night King's creation. He watches the man tied to the weirwood tree. He watches the children of the forest plunge dragonglass into the man's heart. And as the man transforms, as his eyes flood blue, Bran recoils. He flinches. Not in surprise, but in something that looks almost like recognition. Like an echo of pain that isn't supposed to be his. Now here's where the most compelling theory in all of Game of Thrones enters the picture. And I want to be clear, the show never explicitly confirms this. But the evidence is so consistent, so carefully planted, that ignoring it feels like ignoring the story itself. The time loop theory. The idea is this. At some point, perhaps in a desperate last resort attempt to stop the long night before it began, Bran reached back through time and into the mind of the man the children chose to transform. He tried to stop them. He tried to communicate. But as the Three-Eyed Raven warned him, the past is already written. The ink is dry. And in the books, Jojen Reed gives an even more haunting version of this warning. It is beautiful beneath the sea, but if you stay too long, you'll drown. Bran didn't drown in water. He drowned in time. He stayed too long inside a man being turned into a weapon, and the transformation trapped him there, forever. A version of Bran Stark, locked inside a prison of ice for 8,000 years, alone, in agony, driven mad. And suddenly, his obsession with Bran makes perfect sense. He doesn't want to kill the Three-Eyed Raven to erase memory. He wants to kill Bran to kill himself. He wants to break the loop. Whether it's the time loop or the bloodline, the implication is devastating. The Night King isn't a foreign invader. He is a Stark. The war between the living and the dead isn't good versus evil. It's a family destroying itself across millennia. But here's where the story turns truly dark. Because if the Night King is a version of Bran, or even just a Stark ancestor consumed by ice, then what does that make the Bran who survived? The one sitting in the wheelchair in Winterfell? Not a victim, a predator. Let's look at Bran's actions in Season 8. On the surface, he does almost nothing. He sits, he stares, he speaks in riddles. But track what he achieves, and a pattern emerges that is genuinely chilling. He gives Arya the cat's paw dagger in Season 7, the exact Valyrian steel weapon that will kill the Night King. He doesn't explain why. He just hands it to her, in the Godswood, the same place where she will use it. He volunteers himself as bait, knowing the Night King's obsession will bring him to that precise location. He tells no one about Daenerys' descent into madness. He says nothing about the Iron Fleet. He withholds information that could have saved thousands of lives. And then, when Tyrion asks if he'll be king, Bran says the 9 words that should keep you up at night.
Why do you think I came all this way?
That line reframes everything. It implies Bran didn't just foresee this outcome, he engineered it. For Bran to sit on the throne, the Night King had to die. Daenerys had to die. Jon had to be exiled. And Bran made sure every piece was on the board. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait, first you said the Night King might be Bran. Now you're saying Bran is a manipulator. Which is it? And the answer is, it doesn't matter. Both versions lead to the same horrifying conclusion. Whether Bran is a tortured soul trying to end a time loop, or a cold strategist who manufactured a war to seize power, Bran is not what he told us he was. The explanation he gave in that war council was a cover story.
He wants to erase this world, and I am its memory.
Was the lie that Bran needed everyone to believe, so that no one would look too closely at what the three-eyed raven actually is. So let's look. The Night King personally killed the old three-eyed raven. Not through a lieutenant, not from a distance. He walked into that cave and delivered the killing blow himself. And the question no one asks is, why did the Night King treat the previous raven as an equally urgent target? Because the three-eyed raven isn't a title, it's an entity. In the books, the previous three-eyed raven is Brynden Rivers, also known as Bloodraven, a Targaryen bastard, a spy master, a man who was already infamous for his surveillance and manipulation before he became fused with a magical tree network. And when Bran arrived in that cave, something transferred. The entity that was Bloodraven became part of Bran. And the Bran who emerged from that cave was no longer the boy who fell from the tower. This is what the Night King understood, and what everyone in Winterfell failed to see. What if the three-eyed raven doesn't teach successors? What if it consumes them? What if it moves from body to body, accumulating thousands of years of memory and power? Bran Stark didn't become the three-eyed raven. The three-eyed raven consumed Bran Stark. And this brings us to the most unsettling moment in the entire battle. While everyone around him is fighting and dying, Theon charging, Arya sprinting, soldiers being torn apart, Bran wargs. His eyes go white. The show never tells us what he was doing. The charitable reading is that he was scouting through ravens. The darker reading, the one the show practically begs us to consider, is that he was watching the timeline unfold, confirming that every death, every sacrifice, every broken body was falling exactly into place. The Night King wanted to kill Bran to stop this, to stop an omniscient, emotionless entity from taking the throne of the Six Kingdoms, an entity that can see everything you do, hear everything you say, and has no human desires, no human empathy, no human conscience. The Night King failed, and now that entity rules. And this is where the real tragedy lives. Go back to the Godswood. The Night King walks toward Bran. He doesn't draw his weapon immediately. He stops. He stares. There's something in his expression, or rather in his stillness, that doesn't look like triumph. It looks like grief. If the time loop theory is true, this is a man who has been trapped in ice for 8,000 years, looking at the version of himself that is about to trap him. If the Stark bloodline theory is true, This is an ancestor meeting the descendant who will use his death as a stepping stone to power. Either way, the Night King is not the villain of this scene. He is the sacrifice. And then Arya strikes, and the Night King shatters, and the war is over. We got the happy ending. The bad Iceman died. The Starks won. The boy who fell from the tower became king. Credits roll. But think about what actually happened. The Night King raised the dead. That's terrifying. Monstrous. Bran watched hundreds of thousands of people burn in King's Landing and said nothing. He could have warned them. He could have stopped it. He chose not to, because their deaths were necessary for him to take the throne. Tell me, which one is the monster? Bran told us the Night King wanted to erase the world's memory, but maybe the Night King just wanted us to forget, so we could finally be free. The only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself. And in that Godswood, we saw two hearts, one of ice, one of stone, finally meet. And only one walked away. The question you should be asking isn't which one was the villain. It's whether the right one won. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a comment. Do you think Bran is actually evil? Give a like and click to subscribe. Your support will greatly help this algorithm to notice my work. See you next time. Until then, stay cult.